In this video, we're going to go through exactly how I made 842,000 euros on Instagram in 12 months without sales calls. First and foremost, I'm going to take you through the proof, then I'm going to show you the exact content and numbers we were trying to do. We were doing on Instagram, then we're going to take a look at YouTube. We're going to go over just buyer psychology in general. We're going to go over the awareness triangle info. Then I'm going to take you through the content flywheel. This is the 4 types of content that every single post on Instagram has to be in order to actually increase your conversion rate. Then we're going to take a look exactly at the 3-layer content system and the buyer psychology behind it, and examples of every single type of content that you can make that converts the highest on Instagram. This is the exact system that I used to actually generate these type of numbers and literally sell without trying hard with sales calls, etc. Then lastly, we're going to take a look at the posting cadence depending on the amount of income that you're making every single month, and one algorithm tip that I guarantee you've never heard of this before, right? So let's first and foremost get started showing you my Stripe. So these were the Stripe numbers. We stopped using Stripe. I think Stripe is pretty trash. You get blocked on there so easily, but regardless, these are the type of numbers that we were doing. As you can see, we had a mixture of high ticket and low ticket, and I'll tell you the exact strategy behind that now in a minute. These were our Instagram posts, and just to show you, you'll see in a second, when we take a look at the content flywheel, every single one of these posts served a specific type of purpose. You see, when it comes to Instagram and content, you need to be incredibly intentional. There's people out there that have only posted 100 reels and they're performing, making more money, getting more views, people are more engaged with them compared to the people that have 1,000 reels. You need to ask yourself all the time, why is that? Well, there's people that are being intentional, right? You need to be very strategic on what you're doing. As you can see, this is one of the videos here, 1.1k comments, right? This is a CTA. You can only imagine how much money I made on this one alone, right? 23k views, right? This one here, 33,600 comments on this video, right? Did very well. Another one here, 248,000 views. Less comments here. Funnily enough, this is less viewers. I probably made more money on these two, right? But this still serves a purpose because this is top of funnel. We're going to speak about all that in a second. Once again, another 158,000 views. So you can see the numbers are there. Similarly with our YouTube here, although this video is not about YouTube, I'm just showing you how these strategies and framework can be literally replicated on YouTube as well. I would do the exact same thing on YouTube that I'm showing you here for Instagram. 21,000 subscribers, over 1.4 million views. As you can see here, the videos look 161,000 views, 45k, 29k, 43k, 136k, right? That's that. Now, here's the issue, guys. Most content doesn't convert because people are posting content like this unstrategically, right? They have no intention behind the content that they're posting. They're posting 5 tips to do this. They're posting, oh, here's my morning routine and how I do this. I wake up in the morning and I brush my teeth, and nobody cares. You need to understand the market, the content market right now is exhausted, meaning that people are sick and tired of just watching the same type of content over and over again. Adding the issues now of AI, where it's even pushing out more and more content, more and more trash content. People's attention span has become a lot smaller, right? People are not giving content the attention that they used to give it. So it means that you really need to stand out, but you need to be strategic. You need to post content in a way that aligns with the buyer's mind. It aligns with the psychology of the buyer. Now, most people are creating content for awareness, but not conversion. Some people say only create content for conversion, and some people say only do it for awareness. I say do both, and I'm going to explain now in a second. Content, guys, at the end of the day, what is content? You're speaking to the camera and you're communicating. Business is all about communication. No deal in the world has ever gotten done without communication. That's the one thing that gets deals across the line. You need to be communicating, but your communication needs to be incredibly effective and concise, straight to the point, and it triggers different parts of the brain. When you take a look at the human brain, right, different areas of the brain need to be satisfied, pleased, or fulfilled, right? And this is what your content does. Certain content will satisfy and appease this part of the brain. Certain content will appease this part of the brain. Certain content will appease this part of the brain. We're going to go through that in detail in a second. So what most people end up doing is they only please one part of the brain. For example, their content is just entertaining, but they have no social proof, right? So it doesn't please this part of the brain. And this is where the issue is. There's no alignment, right? People are only posting one type of content or 2 types of content, and the full picture is not being filled in. You see, for someone to buy, they have to satisfy a specific checklist, right? And this is what it's going to look like when we take a look at the content flywheel. Now, when we take a look at actually trying to sell, we don't just start from the start. We start from the end goal, which is buying, right? Somebody buying, and we reverse engineer that from the psychology of the mind of the buyer. So this is usually what happens when somebody sees your piece of content to them deciding that they want to solve that problem. First and foremost, and you've probably seen the 5 steps of awareness before, this is slightly different, specifically in info or what's going on in the content space at the moment, right? You'll see that somebody has problem awareness. This is most people. For example, someone's struggling to pass 50K a month, or somebody is struggling to lose weight, whatever, and you have content that ends up talking to that problem. So they know they have a problem, but they don't know what's causing it. For example, they're stuck at 50K a month. Then you have solution awareness. They know the problem and they know the category of solution, right? But they don't know who to buy from, who will solve their problem. For example, in my case, they know that they need better positioning. They know they need to look like an authority within their space or niche. But everyone claims to do positioning. So they're struggling on who do we pick? We know that we have the problem. We know that there's a solution for it. But who's going to coach me on this specific thing, for example? And then the last one is provider selection. They know the solution. They know the provider. But they're deciding now if they trust you enough to buy. They know that you know what you're talking about in regards to the problem. They know that you have a solution for it. But do you have the specific authority signals? Do you tick the check boxes in their mind that will satisfy their need and their desire to actually buy from you? And the example of this is this person, they seem legit, but can they actually help me? Like, will I actually get the result? Remember, at the end of the day, like the last step is people will only buy if they genuinely believe they will get the result. Like, that's the only way they'll buy. And what ends up happening, guys, is people will make content for here, or people will make content for solution awareness, but they won't make content for provider selection, right? Most creators post content for stage 1 only. That's the educational tips, the how-tos, the value, etc. But it's just awareness content. Content here is all awareness. This content is what converts, right? Because by the time someone's ready to buy, they've already gone through stage 2 and 3, and your content didn't address either. Going back to what I spoke about here, a lot of people's content just fulfills the 1/3 of the brain, but does it fulfill this part and does it fulfill the frontal part? No, and that's the issue. So this is what I like to call the content flywheel. Every idea you think of must serve one of these. When you take a look at your content idea, a lot of you are probably going onto Claude or ChatGPT and getting your hooks from there, making content. But you really need to be strategic, and you need to think, right? People think that it's a lot of effort doing that up front, really being strategic about the hook, really being strategic about the intention behind the video and the actual body of what you're saying in the video. But you're spending time creating that video regardless. Here's the thing, the hard work is not being done now. You see what I'm talking right now? This is actually the easy part. The hard part is making all of this, right? Being so intentional in a specific way, being able to communicate the point to you in a very, very specific manner. This is the hard part. So this is why I recommend you every single time you're about to create a piece of content, think, what does it serve? It's supposed to serve one of these 4. Like this, you need to fulfill every single one of these in order for people to buy from you. If one of them is missing, then there is going to essentially be a little gap, right? A little gap in your content that's not satisfying a specific part of the buyer's mind. First one is content that relates with people. People look at that content and are like, you know what? I actually feel like I'm in a similar position as this guy, for example, or I feel this problem, right? And this is usually going to be content that's on the top of the funnel and middle of the funnel. If you don't get that, basically content at the top of the funnel, I'm going to explain that in a second because I don't want to confuse you too much. Then you have content for them to want your life, right? This is going to usually be lifestyle content. You're going to show, the lifestyle, you want to show the typical lifestyle that you're living, but the lifestyle that the target audience that you're targeting wants as well, right? So specific people will show off the Dubai lifestyle, and that's cool. And then it depends once again on the target audience. For example, on Forex, you're showing off the Lambos, etc., because it's 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. They're all interested in that sort of thing. They want the Rolexes, they want the Lambos. That's what you show, right? For example, for someone like me, I don't need to show that type of a thing because my audience sophistication level is a lot higher than that. So I don't need to show that. my type of clientele are more interested in depth. They want to see if I really know what the hell I'm talking about. And this is different, so I show a different type of lifestyle here, right? Then middle of funnel, which is the content that actually like nurtures people and converts and lets them know, oh shit, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. And this is value content. And last but not least, this is like some of the most important content. And a lot of people do this, but they don't know how to do it correctly. And this is bottom of funnel. And this is social proof content, right? But what does this all actually mean? Like everyone says, make content that relates with people, content for them to want your life, value content, social proof. But how do we actually create those type of videos? Like what does that actually consist of? And this, guys, I'm introducing you to the 3-layer content system. If you perfect this, I guarantee that you will grow in views, you will grow in followers, but that's not the main part. You will actually be able to sell to people. And we're not actually optimizing for views. We're not necessarily just optimizing for followers. We're optimizing for conversion. This is the main thing. And this 3-layer system will satisfy all that. You'll get the followers, you get the views, you got the engagement, but finally you will actually get people that are interested in buying from you because they see, oh, this guy fulfills all the checkboxes in my mind that actually make me want to buy whatever he's selling, right? The first one is layer 1. This is problem diagnosis content. This is at the top of the funnel. This type of content is where you're trying to bring awareness to a specific problem, right? This is where you bring awareness. And the psychology trigger of this is pattern interrupts and naming the problem, right? So these are the things that you're trying to do. You're trying to interrupt their pattern as they scroll through and they watch your reel, and you're trying to name out a specific problem. You see, the goal for this type of content is for people to say, oh shit, that's exactly my problem. That thing that he just spoke about is exactly the thing that I'm dealing with, and I didn't even know how to describe it. So this works psychologically, right? Due to something called the diagnostic authority effect. You see, when you name a problem someone's been feeling but couldn't articulate, you create instant credibility, right? And this, the diagnostic authority effect, a very good example of that is when you're in the doctor's office and they look at all your symptoms and they name, right? They name the thing that you've been dealing with. This is the diagnostic authority effect. See, people end up thinking that, if this person understands my problem this clearly, they must know the solution. You see, you're not selling right now, right? You're not trying to sell anything. In fact, I don't even CTA in problem diagnostic content. I don't ask them to do anything. But because I'm diagnosing it, diagnosis, and when people see, oh, damn, this guy knows what the hell he's talking about, this creates trust faster than any credentials ever will. And here are some types of content that you want to be posting that work really, really well, that we've tested, that we've seen across the board, works really, really well for us, for our clients, and for other incredibly top creators in the industry at the moment. So, number one type of content that you could be posting, and once again, these are all examples, right? These are all examples. There's probably another 20 versions, but these are ones that I found to be really, really good, is contrarian challenge. So this is going against what people usually do. And the format for this will usually be, everyone says this, but here's the reality of this, right? So you're going contrary to what everyone says. And this triggers a pattern interrupt, right? And cognitive dissonance. And the triggers, essentially, what I'm showing you here is what does it trigger in the buyer's mind, because you need multiple, as I said, there's different checklists that you need to tick off, and the more triggers that you can have in the buyer's mind, right? This is all buyer psychology. The more triggers that you can have, the more chances of them actually engaging with you and buying the thing that you're trying to sell. And a lot of time, the example structure of this is you'll have a specific popular belief, right? Why it fails, you go through why it fails and what's actually true. For example, this one is, why posting every day, like an example of the contrarian challenges, why posting every day is terrible advice for most creators. I'm not going to go through every single one. I would recommend you to just stop and take a look at these, right? Because the video will be very, very long if I go through every single one. But another example of this is the hidden problem reveal. The real reason you're stuck isn't X, it's Y, right? Once again, this wouldn't necessarily be the hook, but this is the idea behind it, and you will need to optimize for a very, very powerful hook. Reason being is everyone is doing this exact same hook, so you don't want to fall under the same subconscious framing as everyone else. Because if somebody's seen that hook from someone else and they see from you, they will actually relate that to the first person that they've seen it, if that makes sense, right? And these are the different triggers. So this one, it will actually give them problem awareness, so now they'll be aware of the problem, and what this does is it shows diagnostic authority. So this is the diagnostic authority effect that I showed you above earlier, right? Regardless, so pause it, take a look at these type of content. This is the best type of content to be making for layer 1 problem diagnosis content. Now the second step in layer 2 is solution differentiation. So the first one, you're just trying to point out a problem and you're trying to diagnose that problem. And for people to say, damn, this guy is an authority. This is just revealing the problem, right? Which falls back to the here. This is revealing the problem. The second one is going to satisfy solution awareness, right? And we need to satisfy all three for there to be congruency, right, within our content selling system. So the second one is solution differentiation content. This is middle of funnel. To keep it simple, top of funnel is content right at the top. This is the content that you're trying to bring awareness. This is the content where you're trying to get as much views as possible and for people to say, oh damn, this guy actually seems to know what he's talking about. The second one is showing your solution, why your solution is different, why your solution is different, your unique mechanism, your expertise level, right? This is where all the value content happens. This is middle of funnel. Of course, then bottom of funnel is provider selection. This is the one where you're trying to show trust, you're trying to show your insights, you're trying to create personal engagement between you and your audience. You're showing your social proof, right, etc. So the psychology trigger here is category creation, right? So one important thing in solution differentiation content, and this falls back to my video about category design, right? Finding your white space, positioning yourself, because most people try to compete with everyone else in the market. But what you need to understand is that the number one within a specific industry, number one within a category is always most likely going to remain number one unless they fall out of momentum. So for example, Coca-Cola, when they came out, is number one, right? Other brands came out to compete and tried to bring out that Coke flavor, right? Now that Coca-Cola flavor, for example, Pepsi, arguably Pepsi might be better, but because Coca-Cola came out and people associate Coca-Cola first with Coke, right? Pepsi tried to do the same thing. It doesn't work. Coca-Cola will always remain on top. The only way to differentiate yourself is what 7-Up did. They came and they did everything that's not Coke. So they came and took a contrary position, right? So they differentiated themselves and positioned themselves in a different way. So now everyone else, once again, tried to copy 7-Up. It didn't work. 7-Up stayed at the top. So usually people that are first, right, end up having the strongest market share, even more so than someone that ends up being better than them. So the best way is for you to create a different positioning in your mind. And the best way to do that, right, is by coming up with a unique mechanism, right? And once again, this is not that for this video. If you don't understand what this is, then I recommend you to go ahead and take a look at my positioning video. I go very, very in depth on that. So in this type of content that you're making in layer 2, the goal is to make them say, okay, I get the problem, but how is your solution different from everyone else's, right? In this type of content, this is what you're trying to show them. You're trying to show them, look, I know everyone else has been speaking about this problem and I know everyone else has this specific solution, but I actually have a different solution, a solution that's potentially even better, a solution that actually works. And this is what you're trying to do in this content. Now, why this type of content works psychologically? This is where I introduce my unique mechanism. For example, in my case, I don't come out and say I'm a positioning coach. I help you position yourself in the market, etc. I don't say that I'm a branding coach because everyone else says that, right? And here's the thing, regardless of how good I am, regardless of how bad I am, it doesn't really matter. People will associate me with everyone else in my category. For example, if you make Forex content, even if your Forex content is brilliant, people will associate you with scammers because that's the stigma that industry has. Whereas if you make your own category, people don't have any comparison point, right? So in my case, I'm perception engineering. I'm still basically helping with position, helping with branding, helping with content, helping how to scale, a business, whatever. But I created my own category, which is called perception engineering. This triggers the category anchoring effect. You see, when you create a new category, the buyer's brain has no comparison point. You're automatically the expert because you've defined it. That's why, guys, I can charge $10,000 audits while positioning consultants charge $2K. Because when you have a different category, remember, there's no comparison point, so you have a different price anchor. You can charge another price because it's like no one else is within your category. Whereas if I try to compete with these guys that are doing, for example, brand scaling or whatever, then I need to be charging similar prices to them because that's just how supply and demand works in markets, right? So once again, this is some certain different types of content that you can be making for layer 2 solution differentiation content. Some of them is the framework introduction. Here is the specific 3-step framework I use with clients, right? This shows them your unique mechanism. This shows that you have your own IP, right? You name it, you break down the steps, you show why it's different, right? For example, reveal your specific proprietary system methodology. In my case, it will be our perception audit, right? Or our perception frameworks. Simple. Another one would be, for example, the process reveal, right? So this is what happens in a perception audit. And I show people exactly what would happen and how we go ahead and carry out a perception audit for our clientele. And what does this trigger? This triggers transparency, right? It shows people that, okay, he's very, very transparent in his process, and it gives them kind of like a behind the scenes look, which is really, really powerful for content and building engagement and like a connection with you and your clientele. And it also demystifies what's going on. And this will be a step-by-step walkthrough, what they get, why it works, show what happens when someone works with you, etc. Right? And once again, there's different types of content here. Once again, this is the best types of content that we've seen works really, really well across our client portfolio and across our own businesses as well, right? And the last one, which is incredibly, incredibly important, guys, is the trust and proof content. This is the bottom of funnel. Once again, most people post this and this, but they forget about this, which is incredibly, incredibly important, right? The psychology trigger here is you're trying to show them social proof, right? And you're trying to show them authority signals. What is social proof? A lot of people, like they talk about social proof, but they actually forget what the true meaning of social proof is. Social proofing means that we look to society, right? We look to society for specific triggers on how we should conform, essentially, right? So if we see a lot of people doing a specific thing, we'll take those signals, we take those cues that people are dropping, and we will tend to want to follow that for different reasons to satisfy our mind. This could be safety, this could be to relate to people, so we don't want to be the only ones that are standing out, right? So this is what social proof is. So when you're showing people a case study or a testimonial, you're saying that, oh, you're not actually, people are like, oh, I'm not actually the only one. So there's actually other people that are doing that. So if other people are doing that, then maybe I should be doing that too, because why is he doing it? It's probably something good, right? If he's doing it and he's getting a result, then I should probably do it as well, and I probably will get a result as well. That's what the psychology behind social proofing is. You see, by the time someone goes through your first layer of content and they go through your second layer of content, they're thinking, okay, I have this problem. And the solution that he's presenting makes sense, but can I actually trust this person? And this is where your proof content comes in. And this works psychologically because this triggers social proof cascades, right? Now, when people see one testimonial, they're like, interesting. And this is why you need to be posting a lot of it and consistently. And I'm going to show you the post and schedule in a second. When you post 3 testimonials, they're like, there's a pattern here. When you post 5+ testimonials, and like I'm talking 100+, right? This is just a simple example. It's inevitable, right? It's inevitable that people start actually wanting to like really question themselves and say, you know what, this guy really might have something, I'm gonna give this a shot, right? See, when someone sees multiple people getting their same results, their brains stops asking, will this work? And they start asking, my pain is too strong and I'm seeing clear evidence of proof of this, I need to start. And this is what ends up happening, right? You see, once again, going back, there's no congruency in most people's content. They're only posting one type of content, right? But you need to be posting these 3 layers. If one of your layers are missing, you're going to really struggle. That's not to say that you won't make sales. You'll probably make sales. But my whole channel is about helping people scale past 100K months. And to scale past 100K months, you need to have a strategy in place. You need to have correct congruency across all your sales copy in order for this to actually scale. If not, it's not going to work, right? This is some specific, once again, content types that works really, really well for social proof, right? Transformation screenshots. This client went from this to this in this specific amount of time. This is, once again, social proof, it's concrete results. The testimonial deep dive, right? what this client, what this specific client said about my specific service. It shows details, social proof, it shows relatability. Behind the scenes, you're showing live sessions with your clients. Here's what we diagnosed, right? So like, for example, if I'm going through like a Zoom call with a client, right, and I'm like speaking to them and I'm giving them advice, I can potentially put my camera to the side and record that as well. This is behind the scenes content because it shows people like how you actually treat your clients, how you're working. And once again, it shows people it's social proof, right? Like other people are working with him, they're taking his advice. If they're taking this advice, then he definitely has something really, really good to say, right? So this is some type of content. Once again, you can pause the screen, look at that, take these notes down. I don't care. It's taking me a very long time to prepare this for you guys. So definitely take the notes, definitely use this, right? So here's something though, that's really, really important, guys, is most people don't understand how the algorithm works. And I'm gonna show you a specific way that the algorithm works that most people miss. Here's how you get the algorithm to do the selling for you. You see, Instagram shows your content based on engagement patterns. And a big one is watch time. So if Instagram sees that a user has watched your video all the way through to the end, or they've watched it even multiple times, it triggers that, yeah, this video is good, right? So not only does it push it out to more people, but it pushes your content to the same person more, right? It pushes your content to the same person more. So for example, if they see like a great layer 1 video, right? It might push them to another layer 1 video later on, or layer 2 or layer 3. You'll never be able to like organize the way that your content is pushed. It gets pushed randomly, which is why you need to be very consistent and post a serious amount of volume, right? And why you need to be very, very strategic in every bit of content that it's actually quality. Because what if somebody sees problem 1, right? And that one was a good video, but then now they see the problem 2, and then they see more videos of that, but those videos are trash. They don't even get to the point that it satisfies layer 2 or the solution awareness. So now they don't even need to consider you as a provider. They won't even consider you as someone that they want to purchase from, which is why you need to be so strategic with your quality. Quality over quantity, but quality and quantity is where it trumps everything, right? Now, as I said, here's what most people miss, guys. The algorithm doesn't just show them more content. It shows them similar content first, right? So have you ever scrolled on Instagram and you've seen a specific video about, I don't know, how to scale past 50K months, and you liked that video and you watched it. Now it's gonna show you more of that video from other people, right? It's gonna show you more of that video from other people. Now here's the crazy part. And this is why I don't like to copy other people and what they do, right? And I like to make my own category. This is why positioning is so important, because if you're not positioned well, you're actually selling people on the number 1 guy, right? You're selling people on the number 1 guy. Have you ever seen a time, for example, where you needed new headphones, right? And you start scrolling on Amazon, you see these cheap ones or whatever, any problem that you've ever wanted to solve in your life. You start scrolling, you see a solution, and maybe it's not the top solution. Now you're looking for reviews on the best solution. And a lot of time, if you have the money for it, right, and you have the genuine need and desire for it, you will get the best solution, right? So a lot of the time, these bottom solutions, what do? They end up marketing for the best solution. And this is the issue. So although your problem diagnosis content, where you've helped somebody understand the problem that they're going through, but now the algorithm has pushed them to someone else that has more social proof than you. They have more, like just better content in general, better solutions, unique mechanisms, etc. They will actually end up buying from that person. And this is the danger of it. This is why you need to be so strategic with your content. And this falls to something called perception, right? And once again, perception is a whole other thing that we do. We help our clients perception engineer, because we're like, you need to look like an authority. You need to look different in a cloud of noise. You need to be the one golden shiny thing that stands out, that people are like, you know what? I've tried so much of this crap in the past, but you know, I'm actually willing to take a shot on this guy because he's a bit different. You know, he looks different. He looks like he knows what the hell he's talking about. And it's all about looks. Perception is reality. And this all boils down to perception. You see, in what we're speaking about here, we're just designing the macro plan, right? This is the content that you should be posting. But every single video needs to have specific authority signals. It needs to be said in a specific way. It needs to look in a specific way, right? You need to be wearing specific clothes, be in specific settings. And this is perception engineering. This is how you engineer your perception in the market and make yourself look like a true authority. And you look like you know what the hell you're talking about. Lastly, we're going to speak about posting cadence, right? When you're starting off, you want to be focusing more on like awareness content, problem diagnosis content. So 60% of your content is going to be layer one. 30% is going to be solution differentiation. At the start, you're probably not going to have that much social proof, so that's probably going to be the least amount of content that you're going to be posting. As you scale and you start going to the 100K months, this is where you can ease off the layer one, but you need to start pushing solution differentiation a bit more, but more so you need to push social proofing content even more so, because now you have followership, but you're now trying to actually convert these people, right? You've probably built your followers, you've built your subscribers, etc. Lastly, after 100K months, you really need to start dialing in your social proof content. This becomes the most type of content that you post. And once again, you can actually merge, mix and match. So you can have social proof content that provides value. This is mastermind videos. You get a guy to record your masterminds. You're talking to people. People are listening to you. That's social conformity, because people are listening to you. It indicates to the viewer that they should listen to you as well, right? But you're also providing value, so that it's two birds with one stone. So there's that type of content as well, right? You're still pushing the awareness content. You're still pushing solution differentiation. It will always stay all the way up to the top, but you really need to start mixing in social proofing content, right? And that's that for this video. And this is just for Instagram. There's going to be other videos on my channel where I go deep down exactly on how you should structure each and every single one of these type of videos. This is perception engineering, but this video will be incredibly long, but this is the plan. This is the type of content that you need to be making to actually do exactly what I did, right? Where people were buying from me just off DMs. Did I have some sales calls? Of course. And a lot of these sales calls end up being 5-10 minutes long. People just want to speak to me or speak to my sales team, whatever, just to get confirmation, you know, just to feel good about themselves. And just, yeah. Simple as that. And then they end up buying straight away. Rather, I know there's people that are doing 2-3 call closes for flipping 4K offers, right? And that's because your marketing is not powerful enough. See, your marketing and your sales need to be in sync. Your marketing needs to be good and your sales needs to be good in order for there to be congruency and ease and effectiveness in the way that you sell. If you need help with any of this stuff, if you're stuck scaling a specific part within your business, whether it's in your sales, whether it's in your marketing, you need help with positioning yourself, you're stuck at that 20, 50, 60K mark and you need help, book a call personally with me down in the description below. Book a call on the Calendly. We'll take a look together and we'll see how we can scale your business past the 100K mark, because at the end of the day, that's what we all want. With that being said, I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.